Welcome to Poetry of Immigrants. We're so glad to be back as an extra. Gemma and I are co-producing, Gemma Mathewson, and I really enjoy planning an extra show for Canada because of the richness and also our getting deeper into the poems that we had read the first time. So, welcome, Gemma.
Well, thank you
as
very
always.
much, Frank.
And the lugubrious music opening us signals fall.
It seems peaceful. It
It
seems
is
like a nice
peaceful.
day in fall. We do have a lot of territory to cover in Canada, eh?
Oh, what a wonderful Canadian map from Westbrook Library. I asked them
Great. Nice.
to help me out, so that's a loaner. And I couldn't get the flag, so we did the Xerox for the Canadian flag.
Looks good.
Good. And happy Columbus Day.
Well, thank you. Happy Native Peoples Day to you.
I was hoping you would say that. Happy Native Peoples
I'm
Day.
pretty predictable.
Yeah, and I tried to look on my calendars this morning for the Canadian national holiday. I didn't have it right here on the top of my head, so I have to correct, speaking of music, I have to correct something I said from the last show. I said, "You Are My Sunshine" changes key, or from the major to the minor. I was wrong. I was thinking of Blue Skies that my mother used to sing to me all the time. Blue skies, major key, and then minor key.
Well, I wasn't sure which version of it you had heard, so sometimes you just let things go.
Yeah, sunshine is sunshine.
Right.
Yeah, no blue skies, sad, lugubrious skies. So, in honor of motherhood, Lao Tzu, 6th century Chinese poet, the breath of life moves through a deathless valley of mysterious motherhood, which conceives and bears the universal seed. The seeming of a world never to end, breath for men to draw from as they will, and the more they take it, the more remains. Canada has probably as much riches culturally as the United States, and it's been fun to explore that. I want to put on my Leonard Cohen hat, which my son loaned me this morning. I can't get him out of my mind, the songs, but the poems, which seem to grow in power for me for some reason. The Book of Longing, so along with the music and the longing and sitting up in a cave on Mount Baldy, so to speak, with Rashi, his man. Rashi, I never really understood what he said, but every now and then I find myself barking with the dog, or bending with the irises, or helping out in other little ways. 6 years, as we said last time, out of his busy commercial life, to live the life of an ascetic, a monk. Other writers. Steve Sanfield is a great haiku master. He lives in the country with Sarah, his beautiful wife, and he writes about the small things which stand for all things. Kyozan Yoshu Rossi, who has brought hundreds of monks to a full awakening, addresses the simultaneous expansion and contraction of the cosmos. I go on and on about a noble young woman who unfastened her jeans in the front of my Jeep and let me touch the source of life because I was so far from it. I've got to tell you, friends, I prefer my stuff to theirs. So much for...
That's, I suppose, honesty, poetic honesty.
So much for a completely ascetic life.
Right.
Right. True self. True self has no will. It's free from kill, or do not kill. But while I am a novice still, I do embrace with all my will the first commandment, do not kill. It seems like he's going deeper inside himself up on the mountain, exploring by being, first of all, true to himself, his true self, his real self, the self of the music and the voice.
And also rearranging the commandments to suit his own, moral codes.
Exactly. Rearranging it.
Why not?
Rearranging the universe, the commandments, the imprecations not to do this. SOS, 1995. Take a long time with your anger, sleepyhead. Don't waste it in riots. Don't tangle it with ideas. The devil won't let me speak, will only let me hint that you are a slave, your misery and deliberate policy of those in whose thrall you suffer and who are sustained by your misfortune. The atrocities over there, the interior paralysis over here. Pleased with the better deal? You are clamped down, you are being bred for pain. The devil ties my tongue. I'm speaking to you, quote, friend of my scribbled life, end quote. You have been conquered by those who know how to conquer invisibly. The curtains move so beautifully, lace curtains of some sweet old intrigue. The devil tempting me to turn away from alarming you. So I must say quickly, whoever is in your life, those who harm you, those who help you, those whom you know and those whom you do not know, let them off the hook. Help them off the hook. Recognize the hook. You are listening to Radio Resistance. Ooh.
So I wonder, and oftentimes, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what year he wrote that.
Right.
Because life goes on, and it's... So I'm going to read one from Joni Mitchell, also a Canadian native, who has lived in the United States, but now shares time living in Canada and California.
What a sweet, sweet songwriter.
Yeah, she is.
Oh my goodness.
And she's powerful, and she can also be, she is a sweet songwriter. Many of her songs are sweet love songs, and some of them are also commentaries. So since we are the poetry of immigrants,
we are.
And immigrants deal with borderlines, I thought I would read this poem of hers called Borderline, which is music, but also a poem.
So a collection of her poetry and music.
Yes, this is a collection, the complete poems and lyrics.
What a book.
Borderline. Everybody looks so ill at ease, so distrustful, so displeased. Running down the table, I see a borderline, like a barbed wire fence strung tight, strung tense, prickling with pretense, a borderline. Why are you smirking at your friend? Is this to be the night when all well-wishing ends, all credibility revoked? Thin skin, thick jokes. Can we blame it on the smoke, this sudden borderline? Every bristling shaft of pride, church or nation, team or tribe, every notion we subscribe to is just a borderline. Good or bad, we think we know, as if thinking makes it so, all convictions growing along the borderline. Smug in your jaded expertise, you scathe the wonder world and you praise barbarity. In this illusionary place, this scarred, hard-edged rat race, all liberty is laced with borderlines. For every income, every age, every fashion-plated rage, every measure, every gauge creates a borderline. Every stone thrown through glass, every mean street's kick-ass, every swan caught on the grass will draw a borderline. You snipe so steady, you snub so snide, so ripe and ready to diminish and deride. You're so quick to condescend, my opinionated friend. All you deface, all you defend is just a borderline. Just a borderline, just another borderline.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
Songwriting can be
right.
a surprise.
It can be a surprise and a kind of an examining exercise. How we build borderlines and how we maintain them.
So logically well thought out and questioned.
Right.
And yet what I hear so magically is the rhythm and the rhyme.
Because it's a song as well, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the power for me of the poet's ear, the musician's ear, that wonderful repetitive rhythm. Wow. They're a nice counterpoint too, in a way, to
They
each
are,
other.
yeah.
Let me just, for poet's audience, just give a little bio on Leonard Cohen. Born in Montreal in 1934, his artistic career began in 1956 with the publication of his first book of poetry, Let Us Compare Mythologies. And Cohen is the author of 12 books, including 2 novels, The Favorite Game and Beautiful Losers. He has made 17 albums, of which Dear Heather is the latest. Of course, we spoke about Alleluia last week, but no other song comes to my mind, to my musical mind, except that wonderful rhythm of the Chelsea Hotel, which we repeated last time.
And the first one I remember hearing quite often in my formative years was Suzanne.
Oh, yeah.
Suzanne Takes You Down, you know.
What a blockbuster hit that was.
But he's had quite a few.
Oh, yeah. I think I'd like to hit another Cohen and show a little of his artwork, because can we roll in on him, Max? I've got his drawing here, which again is just so powerful. And it's page by page with the poem. So you get an enhanced kind of feeling from the drawing linked with the picture. He covers the universal waterfront. Last week we read Lorca Lives in New York City. This is just a short one. Mercy returns me, a woman I want, an honor I covet, a place where I want my mind to dwell. Then mercy returns me to the triad and the crisis of the song. A lot of his stuff is mysterious for me too.
Yeah, what do you suppose the triad is?
You got me. And again, I've been reading him in a clump, in a bunch. So even though I may miss something cognitively, it somehow links up. Last one, Early Morning at Mount Baldy. I don't know what it is about the ascetic life that draws me in. I never really wanted to be a priest. Never even thought twice of it, but there was a draw there. The Artist in the Cave. I don't know what it is. Early morning at Mount Baldy. Alarm awakened me at 2:30 a.m. Got into my robes, kimono and hakama, modeled after the 12th century archer's costume. On top of this, the karoma, a heavy outer garment with impossibly large sleeves. On top of this, the rakusu, a kind of patchwork bib which incorporates an ivory disc. And finally, the 4-foot serpentine belt that twists into a huge, handsome knot, resembling a braided challah, and covers the bottom of the ruksu. All in all, about 20 pounds of clothing, which I put on quickly at 2:30 over my enormous hard-on. Wow.
Well, that's waking me up.
Me too. That's Leonard Cohen. Pow! Or I pulled the rug out from under you.
You know, I was visiting a monastery in northern India, and I saw a monk take the bowls of water, the brass bowls of water that were on the offering altar, and take the bowls and measure them and pour them into, like getting 4 bowls into 3. And I thought, I wonder what this beautiful ceremony is all about. And then he took the empty bowl and he placed it over a moth that he wanted to catch. And he took the moth and he put it, brought it to the door and released it. And that was the ceremony. He's just getting rid of the moth. And I was trying to read some meaning into that. And,
Oh, yeah.
But everything was done with such reverence and such care and such, he wouldn't spill a drop of the water.
Almost ritually.
And he wouldn't harm a piece of the, the wing of the moth.
Tiniest wing of the moth.
So I can kind of see why, doing things with purpose and then having, your own awareness be of yourself as well,
I just read him as a bull in the Zen Buddhist china shop.
Right. Which is what I felt like when I visited those places. I had no idea what was going on. And in another one, I was invited to spin all the prayer wheels. The prayer wheels, have the prayer inscriptions written on them. So I spun them and spun them and spun them, though I'm left-handed. So there were 88 prayer wheels. It was significant out in a courtyard. And so the kind little monk bowed to me and said, please go back and spin them with your right hand, because I was undoing the prayer.
Yeah.
So
it's that important.
It's that important. And, there I was, not, I was pretty much a beginner.
I will mention, though, for those cold nights on Mount Baldy, he and Roshi tipped the bottle a lot. That's not proscribed in their religion.
No. Oh, well.
They could do as much as they want, so I think that helped him survive. I'm guessing. We went deeper this time into him. Who else you got?
Well, I am fascinated by the Canadian poet P.K. Paige.
Wonderful. I got one too.
Yeah, and she is a poet who very well known in her own country and around the world. She lived to be 93 years old. She died in 2010.
I wondered how old she had
and
gotten.
She started writing as a young woman, but 2 poems I'd like to read, you can spell me in the middle, are poems that she wrote when she was 88 years old, and a book she did about glosses, Glossa.
Glosses.
Glosses are poems that are written taking a quatrain of another poem, and it helps if it's a famous or well-known poet. So taking a quatrain from another poet and using the last line of your poem to as a part of a line in that quatrain. So there would be 4 lines, and each of those lines is incorporated into a stanza of your poem.
That's an intricate pattern.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so fun because you can you can celebrate someone else's poetry while you're giving yourself a challenge. So here is one of her glosses. It's called The Blue Guitar, and it's after Wallace Stevens' The Blue Guitar.
Yeah.
And the first 4 lines I'm going to read are his. They said, "You have a blue guitar. You do not play things as they are." The man replied, "Things as they are changed upon the blue guitar." And now this is P.K. Paige. "I do my best to tell it true, a thing exceedingly hard to do, or tell it slant, as Emily advises in her poetry. And colorblind, how can I know if green is blue or cinnabar? For me, a color chart that I can check against a summer sky, my eye is on a distant star." They said, "You have a blue guitar." "I have," the man replied, "it's true. The instrument I strum is blue. I strum my joy, I strum my pain, I strum the sun, I strum the rain. But tell me, what is that to you? You see things as you think they are. Remove the mote within your ear, then talk to me of what you hear." They say, "Go smoke a blue cigar. You do not play things as they are." Things as they are, above, below, in hell or heaven, fast or slow. They silenced him. "It's not about philosophy, so cut it out. We want the truth and not what you are playing on the blue guitar. So start again and play it straight. Don't improvise, prevaricate. Just play things as they really are." The man replied, "Things as they are not the same as things that were, or will be in another year. The literal is rarely true, for truth is old and truth is new, and faceted, a metaphor for something higher than we are. I play the truth of every man. I play the truth as best I can. The things I play are better far when changed upon the blue guitar."
I love that one. And I hear the pattern, which is so rich in the rhyming as well, but it's really the rhythm that captivates me. And it brings me back to the poem you read of Joni's last show, when the generous musician...
Oh, right. He played real good for free.
He played real good for free.
Oh, excellent that you remembered that.
I love that one.
Made that connection.
Really came alive visually, too.
Yeah.
Oh, what a sweetheart she was to write that one, Joni Mitchell. P.K. Paige has got a range. I was just hunting for this book and realized that it was accessible, and they found it for me. Hand Luggage. It's a memoir in verse. What happened was she married a VIP diplomat, Canadian. And I want to read a little of her background as a prep for that. And then I want to offer you some change of rhythm from what you just read to her talent with just the most wonderful galloping rhythm I've heard, and the whole book is written in that.
Oh, good.
Riffing on memory, that is P.K. Paige's method in Hand Luggage. All memory. A wonderful long poem nobody else could have written, meaning the original form, as well as the autobiographical content. Some events are told out of chronological sequence, some minor characters. A marmoset is one. What is a marmoset?
A marmoset is
furry little animal?
Yes, it's a furry little animal.
Oh, thank you. Admittedly claim disproportionate space. The reader is relieved of much that is conventional autobiography that would be plotted through here. Hand Luggage carries a plenitude of penetrating observations and probing questions arising from richly varied cultural experience, frankly and lovingly examined. It is a progression of incandescent moments caught in a poetic voice, both assured and unassuming. Quote, "Thank God for my eye, my insatiable eye," says P.K. Paige. "It has seen me through much," end quote. So she packed her bags, followed her diplomat husband to all the capitals of the world and reflected on each one.
Including the marmosets.
Including the marmosets and the little details of teacups and life, all together. But it is the rhythm I draw your attention to, which sets me off a-galloping. I knew I heard this rhythm before. Byron, the destruction of Sennacherib. The Assyrian came down like a wolf on the fold, and his banners were streaming in purple and gold. Da-da-da-da-da. The horses, they're galloping to that rhythm. And here we go. See if you can hear it. London, the 30s. Thirst-quenching London. All eyes, I was everywhere taking it in. Poured into paintings, the Blakes in the Round Room, the Turners, Ben Nicholson's Nashes, the blasphemy of Stanley Spencer's St. Francis. Ecce Homo by Epstein. Great God, what a God. The press and the church up in arms at his cheek. How dare he, a devil disguised as an artist. The public as critic. Then Woolf, as in Virginia Woolf, and the waves, like a shower of gold from a shelf overhead, a bonanza from Zeus. I wept from sheer joy as I stood there and read. Her voices of children were voices from dream. Who had written that way? Not Walpole, Millay, or even Zane Grey, whom I'd read with a passion, or Kipling or Brooke. I was crazed by her rhythms and dazed by her thoughts. I guess you were crazed by the rhythms. It is so penetrating and powerful to have a whole memoir in verse written in that one dactylic, dump-da-da, horse galloping. Wow. That's what I did not hear when I first read the book.
Okay.
And then I read it again.
Through. Okay.
And then the ear went bong. Lovely. Just lovely.
You read it quite well. I could hear it the first time because you read it aloud. So.
What a writer.
She is.
So, London and then Rome.
May I read another?
I was hoping you would before I get to Montreal in the 40s.
So back to the glosses. She wrote one after Pablo Neruda.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's why I chose. I mean, there are so many to choose from, but
how could she do all that and all this and still be the diplomat's wife, having tea with, required 20 minutes. She described it in her book.
Well, I think when you read other poets, if you're really engaged in their ideas, you almost want to go, take it, have a conversation with them. And I think this is the conversation she wished she had had with that thought in his poem.
That I like.
Yeah.
Oh, that brings
That's what they seemed like to me anyway.
Ah, that's brilliant.
So Planet Earth, and the first 4 lines again are Pablo Neruda, and then they're her lines. Planet Earth, it has to be spread out, the skin of this planet. It has to be ironed, the sea in its whiteness, and the hands keep on moving, smoothing the holy surfaces. That's beautiful. It has to be loved the way a laundress loves her linens, the way she moves her hands, caressing the fine muslins, knowing their warp and woof. Like a lover coaxing or a mother praising. It has to be loved as if it were embroidered with flowers and birds and 2 joined hearts upon it. It has to be stretched and stroked. It has to be celebrated. Oh, this great beloved world and all the creatures in it. It has to be spread out, the skin of this planet. The trees must be washed, and the grasses and mosses. They have to be polished as if made of green brass. The rivers and the little streams with their hidden cresses and pale-colored pebbles and their fool's gold must be washed and starched or shined into brightness. The sheets of lake water smoothed with the hand and the foam of oceans pressed into neatness. It has to be ironed, the sea in its whiteness, and pleated and goffered, the flower blue sea, the protean, wine-dark, gray-green sea, with its meters of satin and bolts of brocade, and sky, oh, such overhead night and day, must be burnished and rubbed by hands that are loving, so the blue blazons forth, and the stars keep on shining within and above, and the hands keep on moving. It has to be made bright, the skin of this planet, till it shines in the sun like gold leaf. Archangels, then, will attend to its metals and polish the rods of its rain. Seraphim will stop singing hosannas to shower it with blessings and blisses and praises. And newly in love, we must draw it and paint it, our pencils and brushes and loving caresses, smoothing the holy surfaces.
What a soaring into the Imperium. Oh, by the way, a couple of allusions. The wine-dark sea, don't you love that Homeric? And then the one before that you had read had a wonderful Shakespearean allusion about that thinking, but thinking doth make it so.
So, right, exactly.
Well, we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
That is so much fun to have a symphony of P.K. Paige going on. And we'll be back in 3, so grab a pierogi, have a bottle of beer,
I'm just gonna.
and we'll see you in a couple.
With newspapers and media outlets merging all over the country, communities are losing their local voice.
There's so much going on in the community that I think doesn't really, there's a lot of folks who are unaware of it. And I think things like this can bring it out into the community and in that way kind of bring the community together.
Information and to our residents is the key to good governance. And with the national media and local media not often covering us, this is an excellent opportunity for us constantly to communicate with our constituents and also to have them communicate with us.
The best outcomes will be achieved through a community-based organization that grows its operation and scale by means of locally produced programming.
All of our content is volunteer produced, so we do shows from talk shows to music shows, working with high schools.
VSC-TV is committed to ensuring that the investment made to secure these powerful tools will pay great dividends in the community for many, many years.
Attention travelers. Next Tuesday, a major power outage will cause complete chaos throughout the city. Water, phone, and internet service will be in short supply. There will likely be panic citywide. Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Hello.
Hi. I'm from Blue Hood Stone Barns. We brought a meal for you, and I'm here to serve it to you.
Okay, great. Come in.
Zucchini carbonara, made from zucchini that was harvested earlier this morning.
Again?
Hey, Dan Barber.
You have room for a little bit more?
Come on in.
Brochettes with sausage. So when we made that zucchini carbonara, you know, they're the end pieces of the zucchini, and they're the cores that we cut away. Not to mention zucchini flour. Usually those get thrown out. We use them to create an entire second dish. Does that,
Again?
I'm here to bring you your third course. It's the vines from your zucchini.
We'll have a little zucchini stem pasta. A different experience of zucchini. When we start to think differently about our food, we can get a lot more out of it.
This is delicious.
What do you think we can make out of this? 40% of food in America is never eaten. Cook it, store it, share it. Visit savethefood.com.
talk to me about haikus.
There we
later.
are. Talk to me about what?
Haikus later.
Oh, good.
Okay, because we could do a show on them sometime if you'd like.
Let's do that.
My sister is a haiku enthusiast who belongs to a haiku.
I remember.
Yeah, so, might be something fun.
That'll be April, National Poetry Month. Let's do the haiku show.
Okay, if
Thank
we
you.
can get her, that would be great.
And it's
Right,
whenever,
and maybe she would have somebody else, who knows.
or whenever we can get her would
Yeah.
be good, yeah. So, we're back with P.K. Paige, a wonderful musical poet. Just as musical in many ways as Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen, and the songwriters. Now that I'm realizing the rhythm is embedded in the lines in such a way that at first it's subtle, but then it gallops. Montreal is part of her memoir, autobiography, around the world, and what she has to say about each stop with her husband and the requirements. She looks so 40s there, doesn't she?
Definitely.
Definitely 40s. Montreal, the 40s, Calèche, the snow as high as a house. I love that image. Greystone, the French, and a room of one's own. Lapsang Souchong for tea. That's one of my favorites. Alone but not lonely. My typewriter. Me. And I wrote a real writer, or such was my wish. It is luck, it is destiny. How to account for the fact, knowing nobody, I could connect. A kid from the sticks with Abby Klein and Frank Scott, Arthur Smith, Patrick Anderson. Preview, that's their magazine. A literary magazine in Montreal edited by those four gentlemen, and later A.M. Klein. We had twice monthly meetings at Patrick's. The steps that led to his place were a glacial chute. In winter, we froze. In summer, the heat melted all but our brains and our bones. But we met and we read in his rooms, and Patrick read reams, all brilliant. Beowulf cum Barker a bit, and he changed me and franchised the painter in me. She was a painter. Wow. I was flooded with images. Something got free. Klein, when he came, pulled stars from the air. His bilingual poem, titled Montreal, declaimed in his voice was astonishing. Almative, Isle River Rain. Dear Abby, he was modest, but modestly pleased with the praises we poured on the parley of his verse. I'm hearing the rhythm again. We argued and criticized, crossed out, rewrote, talked of Rilke and Kafka, of Cummings and Stein, of syntax, orthography, not set in stone. Less radical poets looked dull. No, not dull. How could Lorca be dull? Or Auden or Yeats. Less eye-catching, surely, but sometimes what caught by the eye is small fry. Whales sound in the deep. Scott brought his own beer. Patrick brewed tea. As I've said, we were rationed. They drank it themselves. The rest of us went, when the meeting broke up, to Murray's for cocoa and bowls for hot soup. We walked. It was wartime. Few cars were about. Wow.
Oh, I love that. I love that the image of the whale, a deeper kind of poet, not a flashy radical, but the more subtle, more weighty, deep water.
Oh yeah.
Leviathan.
Yeah.
Giant. I love that image. And when you were talking about her as a painter, I didn't read a long biography of her, but it makes sense because in the Pablo Neruda about the earth, she said, well, let's give them crayons and paints.
Yeah. And that the visuals in the glasses are, as you say, a painter's eye. Wonderful.
That was a beautiful image. And
I didn't know her,
yeah.
and now we do. What a joy that is.
It is. It's wonderful to discover new poets. That's one of the things I love about, when you come out and say to me, oh, we're going to do this country. I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that. So I go online and I find poets from the countries, and some I like, some I don't like, just like everywhere else or everything else.
Everything else,
Art and music and poetry, but then something, really speaks to you. And she did for
really
for
clicks
certain.
deep down. Yeah, she does. Through my ear. Secondly, it surprised me. Usually it's a poet's rhythm that captures me first.
Ah, okay.
And we are virtually touring the world. Mm-hmm. It's so delightful with
Canada.
And New York, this winds it up. She's been everywhere. Melbourne, the Far East. New York, the UN. An East River hotel, a suite meant for one into which we both squeezed. I lived in the galleries. The MoMA, the Met, fell in love with El Greco and saw La Grande Jatte. In the flesh, as it were, unexpectedly small. It's a mystery scale. There's magic involved. And the clays. Oh, I had known reproductions, of course, but no matter how skillful, they couldn't convey his extraordinary surfaces. Concave, convex. Some seemed to be bandaged with cheesecloth, as if the painting were wounded. A painting in pain? I found pleasure in matching initials. PK, Paul Klee. We do grasp at straws, but coincidence is a matter worth mentioning. What does it mean? She was with me forever. I had the best tour around the world with her.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And the big bad man, the bear of Canada.
He's not the subtle whale. He's more the angry bear, right?
He is the angry grizzly bear.
Yeah.
The most exciting thing, though, was to find the dedication to Irving Layton.
Oh.
Which was just marvelous.
Okay.
For Irving Layton. It was just like, wow, there's a pathway, right? Quote, what else are you going to say about a man whose work you wholeheartedly admire than that he is a good poet, end quote, said William Carlos Williams over 20 years ago, introducing one of the 30 volumes of Layton's poetry to appear in Canada in as many years. Wow. The selected poems of Irving Layton contains a retrospective of 50 poems with an introduction by the noted critic Hugh Kenner, and is intended to present Layton to an American audience that has been sadly unaware of his, quote, poetry explosion, end quote, in Canada in recent years, and his part in it. Hugh Kenner, that's the back jacket, but Hugh Kenner, a very noted critic, had a few words in the preface. Neither French nor British, Layton looks around him in Montreal with the eye of an exasperated alien. Immigrant, as were they all. Mm-hmm. PK, born in Dorset, England.
That's right.
Came here when she was 2. Canada.
Came there.
Yeah. It was natural that he should have developed the poetic of one-man show. Quote, that's the title for his 63 collection. Balls for a one-armed juggler. That's him. Each new poem of hundreds on hundreds tests out the performance anew. Parenthesis, one-armed jugglers need luck, and it only works sometimes, in parenthesis. Defining his expectations against those of the city's pervading religion, He hopes for little from man save cussedness, from woman save felicity, or from life save moments of lovely instinctual flowering. What he's got is a wise, ancient Jew's voice and wisdom under, and the bedrock, under the French, the English, the Canadian experience. After all, he's born in Romania. Romanian Jewish parents who emigrated came to Alberta when he was 2, and we did have that sod house wonderful poem last time, the deconstruction of the house, right? Which became a ship.
Can I read Improved Binoculars?
Can you ever read Improved Binoculars? That one threw me for a loop.
Yeah, I like this one.
That one really got
And
me.
you can see how he's trying to, well, not trying to, but definitely is making some kind of sense of what he sees. The Improved Binoculars. Below me, the city was in flames. The firemen were the first to save themselves. I saw steeples fall on their knees. I saw an agent kick the charred bodies from an orphanage to one side, marking the site carefully for future speculation. Lovers stopped short of the final spasm and went off angrily in opposite directions, their elbows held by giant escorts of fire. Then the dignitaries rode across the bridges under an oracle of light which delighted them, noting for later punishment those that went before. And the rest of the populace, their mouths distorted by an unusual gladness, bawled thanks to this comely and ravaging ally, asking only for more light with which to see their neighbor's destruction.
Wow.
All this I saw with my improved binoculars.
The ironies and the paradoxes and the sort of caustic perceptions are swirling in my head.
He's definitely seeing a civilization that's not made for, the people that dwell within it.
That's a good kickoff poem for his doubt and his disbelief in any hope for mankind in the long run. What an interesting take. I wonder how much the immigrant experience of the tough early background growing up on the tough prairie, almost like O.E. Rollvag's novel, can't think of the title, Ghosts something.
I don't know that.
Oh, that was marvelous about how tough it was for the Scandinavians in North Dakota. Ditto. The birth of tragedy. And me happiest when I compose poems. Love, power, the huzzah of battle are something, are much. Yet a poem includes them like a pool, water, and reflection. In me, nature's divided things, tree, mold on tree, have their fruition. I am their core, let them swap, bandy like a flame swerve. I am their mouth, as a mouth I serve. The cold green element at the end of the garden walk. The wind and its satellite wait for me. Their meaning I will not know until I go there. But the black-hatted undertaker, who passing saw my heart beating in the grass, is also going there. Hi, I tell him. A great squall in the Pacific blew a dead poet out of the water, who now hangs from the city gates. Crowds depart daily to see it, and return with grimaces and incomprehension. If its limbs twitched in the air, they would sit at its feet, peeling their oranges. And turning over, I embraced like a lover the trunk of a tree, one of those for whom the lightning was too much, and grew a brilliant hunchback with a crown of leaves. The ailments escaped from the labels of medicine bottles are all fled to the wind. I've seen myself lately in the eyes of old women, spent streams mourning my manhood, in whose old pupils the sun becomes a blood smear on broad catalpa leaves, and hanging from ancient twigs, my murdered selves spark the air like a muted collisions. What's that about? At so many levels and so many.
I did read the collection, the ones that you sent me, and I was really struggling to make sense of some of them. Some of them seemed more straightforward. I mean, maybe his references would work better for a certain time or place. But I did not understand a lot of them. There's one here that really did speak to me because it's about him watching his daughter and how your children just sort of slip away from you, or slip isn't the right word, but they're not meant to stay with you. They just keep
drifting.
going. Right. So this is called Song for Naomi.
Oh, great.
And I think it's probably universally easier to understand. Who is that in the tall grasses singing by herself near the water? I cannot see her, but can it be her than whom the grasses so tall are taller? My daughter, my lovely daughter. Who is that in the tall grasses running beside her near the water? She cannot see their time that pursued her in the deep grasses so fast and faster, and caught her, my foolish daughter. What is the wind in the fair grass saying like a verse near the water? Saviors that over all things have power, make time himself grow kind, and kinder that sought her, my little daughter. Who was that at the close of summer near the deep lake, who wrought her comely and slender? Time but attends and befriends her, than whom the grasses thought tall are not taller, my daughter, my gentle daughter. So he has his daughter with time, and time is personified, and time it seems like to him it would be, I don't know, almost a threat, or he doesn't want his daughter with this other thing, and yet the thing befriends her. Mm-hmm. Time becomes her ally. And I think that's a beautiful thing for a parent to understand.
Truly.
You know,
and
it's so unsurprising.
Love and gentleness.
Yeah, right. He doesn't, he sees her and he doesn't understand at first. Who is that over there? Who is that with her? Can it be her? And then.
That's so tender.
Yeah, I love that.
Wonderful. We are down to a minute, and to be faithful to Irving Layton, who was...
Great.
Is he something, can't remember his original name before it was cut. The shark. In some quiet bay or deserted inlet, he is waiting for me. It is noon. There is a stillness on water and land, as if some primal god is about to speak in the sky. Not a single bird is to be seen flying. I shall swim out towards him, bringing him my incurable moral ache and my cancered liver. Memories of women, laughter, Greek islands, griefs and humiliations I could find no words for. I want him to be black, wholly black. I want him to be famished and solitary. I want him to be quietly ready for me as if he were the angel of death. The last thing I want my alive eyes to behold before I close them forever are his ripsaw teeth. Wow.
It's another personification of death.
This range really challenged my circuits.
Yeah, it's good to have a challenge.
Isn't it though? I mean, along comes Irving Layton. He's got poems in here, all personal, about family, Shakespeare, his young 6-year-old son saying, "Daddy, are you as good as Shakespeare?" And he goes through this whole poem. That's a nice.
That's great.
And then for Marilyn Monroe, the 60s. Oh, what a guy, what a guy. Oh, what fun.
Great. Sometimes the questions that children ask you bring you so deep into trying to, understand your own philosophy before you can distill it for a child, or,
Now, how do I handle this?
Yeah.
He says, honestly,
Right,
truthfully.
honestly.
It is a wrap.
Okay.
Thank you, Gemma.
Thank you, Canada.
Thank you, Canada. We had a blast today, that's for sure. The energy was Canadian.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah. So, next show, we have a return poet, Elaine Nadal.
Yes.
And Freddie and Elaine's got a new book out, and I can't wait to
It's
see her
fabulous.
shoes.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Her book is fabulous. She gave me a preview so I could do a blurb.
Oh.
So my little blurb is in it.
I'm so happy.
Yeah. But her book is fabulous.
Thanks.